Cool. We are good to go. Welcome along to this will be the second episode of the Minds of Giants podcast. I realize that sort of assumes that the people I'm talking to are like industry leading experts for everything.
Which are far from.
Yeah. But, it's people doing cool shit.
Yeah.
I have with me Zeak Kelly. What's your sales pitch if you're selling yourself to someone?
If I was to sell myself to someone, like what I am, who I am, like labels.
What do you want to tell everybody?
I guess I'm a freelance designer,
cool,
ideas person, adventurer.
Cool.
Like to travel and eat good food, really. That's just me in a nutshell.
Oh, I did some Googling of your general name and it came up with some interesting results, some bizarre YouTube videos that had something to do with CrossFit.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, this is cool and weird, but all right. I've got a couple of things really that I wanted to focus on. Now, I met Zeak at work where I make coffee and he enjoys, he's a triple shot coconut latte kind of guy.
Every day.
Probably multiple times per day.
Most.
And you mentioned that you were at one point a CrossFit athlete.
Yes.
What do you define by CrossFit athlete?
I guess for anyone that's competing and making money, you can call yourself an athlete. You're doing it as a career choice, I guess. If you're making money from doing exercising, that's when you can claim yourself as an athlete. So I coached and trained CrossFit for about 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And within that 5 years got to quite a good level of fitness and strength. And
cool.
And CrossFit itself has competitions.
Yeah.
Whether it be like a big stage competition, like the CrossFit Games, which is held over in America, or just your weekend 2-day competitions held in your local area.
Cool.
You can win up to $1,000 a competition if you're doing those low level ones. So
shit,
just to go out there every weekend, just make a bit of money.
Cool. Why CrossFit?
Wow, funny story. I used to be a rugby player.
Oh yeah.
Followed my rugby dreams over to Gold Coast, where I had a friend playing rugby and getting paid for it.
Cool.
Went over there, and while I was over there, received a message from a couple of friends that I'd met a few years earlier, and they were like, "Hey man, when are you going to come train with us? We've started a CrossFit gym in Hamilton." I was like, "Well, that sounds awesome. What is CrossFit?"
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, it's just like a functional style training.
Yeah.
We've just started a gym. I would love it if you just came and hang out with us." So I was like, "Got a spare couch I can sleep on?" And they said yes. So I flew back from the Gold Coast to Hamilton and lived on their couch for 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Just exercising. I was taking boot camps for them.
Oh yeah.
So they were paying me and allowing me to stay at the gym for free, and we just got really involved in it. It was something quite addictive because you can progress in so many different areas, whether it's your gymnastic skills or your strength or your general fitness. So you're always improving, and you sort of get hooked, especially if you're one of those addictive personality type people like I am. You've got so much to better. So got hooked onto that, and then went ahead and did my CrossFit certificate. Where you then are allowed to coach CrossFit.
Cool.
Which is a pretty basic course.
Yeah.
So then that's where my career started. I just fell in love with it. It was something different to rugby. It was a solo sport where you could just really, the effort that you put in, you directly got paid out for. Whereas like a team sport, there's so many different variables. So yeah, I got hooked and went from there.
Oh, that's cool. I over the years I've looked into CrossFit. My sister's actually doing it at the moment, and the main criticism that I hear leveled with it is that it's not dangerous, but can often end in injury.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like on a regular, it's quite common that you end up getting hurt. And then usually they say it's from bad technique and sort of you're doing everything too fast and you're moving up weights too quickly with bad technique and all sorts of shit.
Yeah. So I guess the business model of CrossFit itself is its affiliate model. So any Joe Blog that's done his CrossFit certificate can go ahead and open his own gym. And from there's no set model. There's no set training program. You get to create your own training program. You have your own equipment. You can pretty much do whatever you want to do. So if you think about it, someone can walk off the street, do their certificate in level 1 coaching with CrossFit, and then they can start a gym. So they could have not had any experience previously doing CrossFit, and then they're teaching 50 to 100 people how to move correctly when they don't even know how to move correctly themselves. So it can be quite dangerous depending on where you go. I guess nowadays it's become more popular. There's quite a bit of competition. So if there were 3 CrossFit gyms in your city, and you know that 2 are from people that don't really care too much about it, and then one person's into the movement, the understanding of the body, and really helping you progress rather than just chucking you in the deep end, then most people are going to go to them. So I guess it's starting to even itself out and become more a professional business.
Okay.
But previously, over the last 5 years, you know, it's pretty wayward.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. Cool. So why did you stop being a CrossFit athlete?
It happened about 2.5 years ago, and I suffered quite a bad injury on my shoulder.
Was it due to CrossFit?
Due to CrossFit, yeah.
Okay.
So I had a pre-existing injury from rugby where I dislocated my shoulder. But then with CrossFit, just lifting those heavy weights over and over again, not actually stretching out my shoulder joint correctly. And then, you know, 3-4 years into exercising and not stretching properly, not recovering properly, it finally gave way, and I just tore some ligaments in the shoulder.
Shit.
From there, it was quite funny. This is where the change happened. Is I kept lifting heavy weights. I kept posting videos on Instagram, and I had quite a big following.
This is post-injury?
Post-injury, yeah. So I had a big following, and I felt like I owed it to them to do these lifts, you know, like I was inspirational to these people by lifting these weights, and I was doing it for them. So I found myself still lifting heavy weights with an injured shoulder. And then I got to a stage where, why am I doing this? Is it really just to boost my ego through like likes on Instagram, or, you know, what is it for? Like if I was really caring about my body and myself, I would stop and recover my shoulder. So it was then where I reassessed the situation. And from there I was like, wow, I'm going to look after my body from here rather than continue to, and I've never fully recovered my shoulder. So I've never went back into a competitive sort of area in CrossFit.
Does it still fuck with you now?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So even today at the gym, like I had to alter a few different movements for myself to make sure that I wasn't putting it under stress.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I now know that I don't want to hurt myself, so I can retract from doing certain exercises and things like that, which is a lot smarter than I used to be.
Yeah. I think that, like, for anybody who knows that has had like an injury, that's generally how it goes. Whether they injure themselves, and whether it's like pressure from like their audience, or pressure from the people that they exercise with, or pressure for themselves to just keep going. They get like halfway there, and, you know, like, I've got full range. Like, it feels weird, but I've got full range, so I'll just get back into it. That happens probably like every second week. Someone at jiu-jitsu is like, the injury that I didn't let heal properly like 8 months ago, it's back. Yeah.
And it's like, why not just recover properly? And then, you know, if you then do want to progress forward, go for it.
I guess it's kind of like that whole, when people, you know, like when you're in a workplace and someone turns up to work and they're fucking super sick. Yeah. You're like, why are you here? And they're like, well, if I wasn't here, I'd be letting the team down. And you're like, but by you being here, you're making other people sick. Yeah. And you're going to make yourself sick for longer. Yeah. So you're just fucking everybody off, so that you can feel like you're not letting the team down when really you kind of are, ultimately.
I guess it's the whole system that everyone's born into, right? Like you want to impress the boss, you want to make sure you're doing your part, whereas in reality, like, all that matters is your health. You know, if you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. And so I guess it comes at a realization. It probably takes an injury or a bad sickness or something for people to actually change their mindset around those sorts of things.
So was it after that you decided to get into design?
I had always been into graphic design. Probably 3 years earlier, I went to study, but didn't really work out. I got a position at Mount CrossFit, so a CrossFit gym up in Mount Maunganui. I was like, this is too good to give up. Like, I'm living on the beach, exercising each day. So I didn't end up going to design school then. And I just continued doing CrossFit. And then it was about 2 years after that, I then went to university. I was like, if I want to do it, I have to do it right. So I'm going to university. And I don't really do too well with the schooling system. It was quite structured, and one of the lecturers really put me off it. So I was only there for 2 to 3 weeks before I pulled out of that, went back to what I knew, which was coaching CrossFit and exercising. And then it took a really good friend when I was living over in Adelaide coaching CrossFit. It took a really good friend to say, hey man, like you're injured, your passion is gone for CrossFit. Why not just go do what you love? And I looked into studying design over in Australia, but not being a citizen means that you have to pay
horrific
yeah
prices.
you have to pay up front as well as funding yourself throughout. So I moved back and then went to design school. So I'd always wanted to do graphic design as a child. Like I was designing my own t-shirt brands and whatnot, and I was always into it. Had even done like a few paid jobs for friends and stuff, learnt the programs myself. And then I guess going to school gave me more confidence to then be like, oh yeah, I could do this as a job, like full time. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't sort of, I'm finishing this, I'm starting that. Like I'd always wanted to do it. It was just, that was the right time to do it.
That's cool. Have you found, because I know plenty, and you're always hearing stories about people that do things, especially related to like design or art stuff, and then they finish and they're like, well, I can't get work, or they just don't do anything with it. Have you found that work was difficult to come by to start with, or did you have like a leg up in any area?
When I finished, so I ended up going to UB, which is a design school. I just did a diploma in computer graphic design.
Cool.
And as I finished that, I picked up a client, PwC. It's a big accounting firm. They had an offshoot startup called AirTax. A friend that I had coached CrossFit to in Adelaide, she was actually running that sort of division. And she said, hey man, do you want to do this design work? So straight away I had a bit of a retainer client where I was doing work each week for this client and getting money. So at that moment I was like, I really want to go to Indonesia. So I moved to Bali, and I was there working for this retainer client. I was sort of picking up odd jobs, like a 3D modeled some climbing shoes for a guy that I had met over there, and done some patterns for a swimwear brand. Cool. Of a chick that I met over there as well. But after that, and that AirTax job finished, then it was like I had nothing, and I was like, this is real strange, because I fell straight into a job doing the AirTax stuff, but then all of a sudden it was all gone. So ran out of money, moved back to Palmerston North, because I was like, well, I need a job. What can I do? I don't want to coach CrossFit anymore because my heart's not in it. So I moved back here. My brother-in-law actually owns his own building company. So I was back in Palmerston North 8 months building. With the idea that I would move to Melbourne, and there's a lot of sort of entry-level design jobs in Melbourne. I'd even gone over and had an interview with a couple of businesses over there. Oh, wow. And before I met my partner Stacey, I was just going to move to Melbourne and just hope for a design job. But then through meeting her, sort of reignited the passion for wanting to work for myself. Cool. And we together just started a little design business. As soon as we put our name out there that we were going to start doing some stuff, then the work just started flowing. That's cool. We chose to design things that we're aligned with, so businesses that have an ethical standpoint, an environmental,
rather than just doing work for the sake of work. Yeah,
for sure. So we're like, we want to work with these people. We have these beliefs. They have these beliefs. Hopefully that they would want to work with someone that's aligned with them. That's cool. It's just worked out well.
Are your clients generally more sort of like local New Zealand based, or is it the kind of thing where you sort of you're working with people all over the world?
All New Zealand based at the moment. So far we've just had a few clients. So one's a not-for-profit bread. Cool. So they're making sprouted bread, and the money that they're making goes to their not-for-profit, which helps kids learn to cook so they can have healthy food. So it's called Hands On Food. It's a local business that runs it. Cool. So we've worked with them. Worked with a few other friends. So it's all been local so far. That's cool. But who knows where we'll go next.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, another conversation that we had at the coffee shop, at Sublime Coffee Shop.
Plug.
Was about your trip to Indonesia, and was it a 10-day?
Yeah, so Vipassana, it's a style of meditation, and your introduction to this meditation is a 10-day silent meditation retreat. You sit in meditation for 10 hours a day. And across those 10 days, you don't talk or interact with any other human. So you're really working with inside yourself, and having no distractions and no conversations with other people allows you to stay on track within yourself. Okay. So that was an interesting experience. I previously, before then, meditated daily, just using apps like Headspace or Calm, which is another app that I use as well. And I just did 10 minutes a day, and I found that it would bring me mental clarity because I'm always sort of on the go in my mind.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why not just like jump in the deep end and see what I can uncover?
Yeah.
It was a very interesting experience.
Did you find like it was particularly, like, would you tell someone to go and like give it a stab? Like it was particularly beneficial?
I would definitely be cautious. I wouldn't, if I felt, you'd want to be prepared. I feel like I'm quite a strong person with inside, like my mental strength is there. But I feel like if you went into it quite weak mentally, so like you had just suffered some trauma or you had quite a bit going on in your mind, I think it would be quite hard because you dive too deep. Yeah. Like I found I had a few problems that I knew I had, but there were also a few problems that came up and became clear that I didn't know I have. But if you had some quite bad stuff that you'd push deep, it'd be quite.
That's where it'd come out.
It'd be quite a hard experience because you're sitting there within yourself.
I suppose you're alone as well. It's not like you can
there's
chat to anybody about anything.
Exactly. So you really have to internalize all that stuff. So I'd say you'd want to at least accept that you had some problems before going there. Yeah. And confront them a little bit before starting. Yeah. But other than that, for sure. Like it's an amazing experience, and you uncover yourself, I guess. You understand the way you do things and the reason you do things, and it's eye-opening.
That's cool. Was it was the place that you went to like built like sort of a Western kind of establishment, or is it something that's like very Indonesian and the majority of the people there were sort of more locals, or was it sort of a more of like a, I guess you could say like a tourist kind of thing?
No, definitely not. It was, I think all the establishments, so that their own personal establishments throughout the world, I think all of them are very basic. So you've got 4 people in a room. Yeah. You're on a pretty hard bed. I think if you repeat, so this, I think they're called senior students. If you go back for a second time, you're actually on concrete floor.
Oh, Jesus.
But we were off the ground a little bit on these sort of thin mattresses. You get 1 blanket. Yeah. You get 2 meals a day. And they're very basic meals, right?
Is that the kind of thing like someone just brings and leaves them for you?
No. So there's volunteers. So the whole system is run on volunteer and donation. So there's unless you want to pay, like you don't have to pay.
Interesting.
And the people that come in and volunteer are previous students, and they had an enlightenment and they wanted to help facilitate that for someone else. So they've come back and to help people. So they're on site. There were volunteers as well.
Interesting. Was the establishment like particularly big? Is it the kind of thing? Was it sort of like a small building, or was it the kind of thing like quite a vast, like did they do other kinds of like retreat stuff there as well?
No, so it's specific for the Vipassana training. So what it is, it's a few different, so it's segregated through the middle, so male and female. Oh yeah. So there's no distraction from the other sex, and there's one main meditation hall, and then outside of that there's a few different I guess you'd call them barrack rooms, where there's multiple rooms with multiple beds in each room. Cool. So essentially you've got an eating hall, a meditation hall, and then barrack rooms, and then you've got a little bit of a walk around area outside. So that's it, pretty basic.
Wow. And that sounds very intense.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and you put well, this one you were put inland out of Jakarta, about 3 hours out of Jakarta, and you're on a mountain in the bush with pretty much nothing around. So maybe 3 out of the 10 days I wanted to leave, like badly.
Was that more at the start?
Only the second day, and then it was like coming to the end was like I need to get out of my mind. But everyone had the same experience, like wanting to leave. But I guess the positions that they locate these places in, they make it quite hard if you do want to leave. They recommend that you stay the whole time, because each night you get to hear some audio of someone telling you about how you're feeling and why you're feeling it and the science behind what's happening in your mind and things like that. So yeah, you're meant to stay for the 10 days because it's essentially a course. You're learning stuff throughout the way.
Yeah. Did you find after you were finished that there is any sort of like prolonged effects? Like, did you find like for the next like couple of weeks you were just like weirdly quiet? Was like getting back into talking all the time kind of weird?
I feel like, so on the last day you're allowed to talk, and pretty much everybody wanted to have a conversation. And I felt like it was quite egotistical. Like everyone wanted to say how they felt or what they got or what they felt like, or, you know, what become of them.
Yeah.
But I just had the opposite. Like as soon as we were released from the first meditation on the last day was when you're allowed to talk.
Okay.
And I just took myself to my room and just stayed quiet for the rest of the day and then continued on with the other meditations. Whereas other people like really I got into the talking stuff. And then even when I left, Stacey came over and met me. My partner came over and met me in Bali.
Oh, cool.
And we had 12 days in Bali. And through those 12 days, it was sort of like, I guess it was good that it was in Indonesia and it's a third world country and there's no sort of materialistic and like there's no Western society there. So it was kind of like you couldn't really hate on it. But as soon as I got back into New Zealand, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this. Like,
interesting. So it was almost like a little bit overwhelming when you got back.
For sure. Like it was a good transition piece going through Indonesia for those 10 to 12 days and then coming back because you sort of got reintroduced back into society. But I think it'd be a big shock if you came from Vipassana straight back into say New Zealand or wherever else you're from. Like you think a lot about the way that the world works in those 10 days and like what's important and what's not important. And so I guess it would take a bit of a readjustment if you're coming straight back home.
Interesting. And now I'm assuming you still continue on with like the meditation in various forms now?
Yeah. So I still meditate daily but I've just gone back to using Headspace. The Vipassana technique is a little bit different in the way that it's, I guess you'd say non-judgmental, so nothing's good nor bad. So it's like trying to stay at an even state and not letting external things alter the way you feel or whatnot. Whereas like I don't 100% believe in that because I like to go get a coffee and really enjoy it. But I'm now more understanding of the lows and like not letting that have too much effect. So say, you know, something that annoys you used to take you like 3 days to get over or like 6 hours to get over. You start to really understand or like see what's going on. Yeah. So like even still to this day, like I'll still get annoyed at something, but I can almost straight away see that I'm annoyed and then be like, okay, like I need to bring myself back into like an even state.
It's quite interesting.
So I don't practice the Vipassana technique anymore, but I still meditate and try to keep myself at a level where it's not too low or too high. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's super interesting. What sort of media do you consume?
Do I consume?
Yeah.
So predominantly just Instagram is like the main source of external media, I guess I would consume. Mm-hmm. And through that, being a vegan, I watch quite a bit of vegan activism, food. I love food. So I've got all sorts of food people that make delicious food, a lot of travel stuff, which I guess is still using that as a bit of escapism, you know, like dreaming about going to certain places. But I also use this as more motivation. So like we like to cook delicious food and the stuff we see, we like try to make that food. And like, so I guess I use it more as inspiration, but still you can easily get consumed and use it as escapism as well. Yeah. And also just, it would have been a few weeks ago that downloaded or got onto Netflix. And I can see why everyone gets so hooked on it. We downloaded it just because we wanted to watch a specific movie that was on there and it seemed like the cheapest option to do. And now we didn't actually get to the stage of cancelling it. So it was last night that we stayed up very late watching a series that were like, maybe we need to just delete this because it's not in line with where we want to go. And it's, I guess, limiting our progress towards our goals. So, but mainly Instagram is where I consume all my
That's
media.
interesting. Now, you mentioned before that you were listening to, I think it was before we actually started talking, you listened to podcasts. What podcasts do you listen to?
So I listen to Rich Roll, he's like a vegan long distance athlete.
Oh, cool.
But he talks to a lot of inspirational people and people that are out there doing good things. And so I listen to him quite a bit. There's also this YouTuber, Casey Neistat. He's actually just started a podcast with his wife.
Yeah.
And it's called Couples Therapy. And it's them talking raw about the problems that they have and the things that they come across. And they actually see a couples sort of therapist. Yeah. And from there, they uncover their things that they have packed around their relationship. And it's been quite cool to listen to, because even though you're in a healthy relationship, there are still things that I guess you could prevent. And it's been nice to hear that other people still have the same problems. And
especially someone like Casey Neistat, who really gives off that, I guess it's the veneer of social media as well. Although he does a very good job to counter that, is the look at this amazing life that I live with my wife and my kid, and I'm in New York and I do all these cool things.
Yeah. He is, and he's quite an inspirational cat in himself, and he's quite a humble as well, which is, I enjoy watching a bit of his stuff now and then as well. Yeah. Also, I listen to startup stuff, so just random startup business, because I'm quite interested in startup business and have an idea of my own that I've been developing. And so I like to listen to stuff like how to start a successful business and what are the makings of businesses and the reasons why they work or don't work, and just getting an understanding of those sorts of things. And as long as I got good information coming into my ears, I'm pretty happy. Cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. What else was I going to ask you, if anything? I think that's pretty much it. Oh, what if you're watching this podcast? What would you want me to ask? What would you have wanted me to ask you
if I was consuming this? I really like sort of stuff that makes people feel a little bit open and uncomfortable. Okay. Like I really like the raw stuff. Like how I said, I like listening to Casey Neistat. Like they're really in their vulnerable state, talking about something that most people would just hide away. Yeah. I really like, I follow a few people that just show their vulnerabilities on a daily. And I think that's a cool thing to connect to. It shows that people are real. It shows that people have the same problems as you. Like if you see someone that you really aspire, you like their life, you like their lifestyle, you like the things they do, and you think that maybe you cannot achieve that. But as soon as they open up and they show their vulnerabilities, that makes you feel more connected and more like you're going to be able to maybe do those things or be able to do the things that you want to do without having to have that self-doubt. And you know that other people are having the same problems and the same thinking. So I like to hear anything that sort of makes the person vulnerable or makes them open up a little bit.
That's cool. All right. Well, I think that's about it.
Cool.
I'd plug some sponsors if I had some, but I don't. Thank you for coming on and being like the second experiment.
Yeah, that's cool.
For this strange podcast that I'm starting. Cool.
My pleasure. Yeah. It's been good to talk.
If people wanted to follow you, how do they follow you?
I'm on Instagram at Zeak_Kelly, and that's about it.
That's
ZEAK_Kelly. Yeah, that's about the only place I am. Cool. We've started the business, as I said before, but we've just had no time to actually develop our own identity for the business. Like there's no portfolio, there's no Instagram account or anything, just because we've been so busy with work coming in. But we look to develop that, and that's called Good for Good. So good, FOR, good. Cool. So working with good businesses that want to do.
Mint. Well, if that's up by the time that I eventually put this out, well, all of those things will, if you're watching on YouTube, all of those things will be in the description down below.
For sure.
And depending on what podcast device you listen to, I'll try and whack that in the show notes as well.
Cool. Awesome.
I think that's about it. Unless you've got anything else that you want to say or tell people about.
Nah. We'll save it if we do another one. We'll get some more in there.
For sure.
Cool, dude. Right.
Well, thank you, Zeak.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you guys on the next episode of Minds of Giants.